Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Tedward, this is Tedward Drives, and today I want to talk about what you should know before you track your E92 M3. I want to talk about it in 3 stages. So number 1 is going to be, you've got a stock car, maybe you're not an experienced track driver, maybe it's your first track day, or you're just out there doing a couple track days a year. Number 2 is kind of where I'm at, where you're getting faster, you're doing maybe like 5, 6 a year, and you want the car to be set up in a way that like allows you to kind of play with the big boys, but you're also not really ready to invest big money. And then 3 is where we'd all like to go, is where you're like fully caging your car and going bonkers. But I digress. I also want to talk about track insurance and like the logistics of being on track, you know, with a car that's relatively expensive, because we're not talking about a Miata that costs 10 grand here. If you f it up, you're talking $30,000 out the pocket if you don't have it insured, and that's not a great place to be. So first, let's just talk about the car. It's a fantastic car right out of the box, and because you think you have this M car, you're like, oh, it's a track car, it's ready to go. That's wrong. It is a street car, and like all street cars, it has limitations. So if you're just doing like your first track day or a couple track days, a couple things you want to do. Really, you just want to inspect the car and make sure it's set, because you're probably not pushing the car to a level that you're going to go super crazy, overheat everything. You don't need sticky boy tires. And really, you just want to make sure that the car is in good mechanical shape. So step 1, inspect your car. Is it leaking? And when I say that, I mean like, is it leaking oil from the valve cover gaskets, rear main seal? Do you have any like known issues with your car that is going to prevent it from surviving at redline for a while? Do you have coolant leaks? If your DCT or manual gearbox has any leaks, especially DCT, you've got all these gaskets on the pan and the mechatronics and all this stuff, and that is expensive if it's gonna blow up. So those are things to think about. Also, you know, change your oil, make sure you have diff fluid, stuff like that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. And ooh, an old G-Body. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine, and I would just recommend going to your local speed shop. You know, luckily for me in Massachusetts, we have like fantastic BMW shops everywhere, and I can basically go get a track inspection at Wild Motorsport, Eurotech Natick, Laren Automotive. Like all these places are right at my door. But I also understand that not everybody has that, and you're not gonna get that done necessarily at your BMW dealership, which I would recommend, because BMW dealerships are just awful. In addition to that, brake fluid. Oh my God, super important. Check that you have pads, right? Are your pads worn? Are they going to survive a track day? Are your rotors worn? Going to survive a track day? And if you don't know when the last time your brakes were flushed, assume they've never been flushed, so go flush them. If you want to, this is a good opportunity to upgrade a brake fluid, because it's cheap insurance. I recommend something like an RBF 600. You don't need to go for 660. So, you know, if you're one of these people who dives into the forums and gets lost in, what oil do you use? Oh my God, which rod bearing coating? Just this is not that. Just go buy some brake fluid. Just do it. Flush it. It's fine. It's easy. Simple insurance, and you won't boil. But at the end of the day, your like stock pads, they're not going to hold up too great to the abuse on track. But we're also not going on time attack. You're doing your 1 or 2 a year, or maybe your first track event. So you're fine. Just go enjoy the day. So now you've got a few track days under your belt, you're starting to realize the limitations of your M3, and you're starting to realize that you can do a few cheap upgrades to make your car faster, to kind of like, now you're driving the car to its fullest abilities on your summer tires, and you're like, you know what, it's time to upgrade, it's time to make this work. And there's a couple things to do. Number 1, brake pads. Upgrade your brake pads, because the stock pads are just going to liquefy under like heavy braking over and over and over again. So I went a little crazy on this. I did G-Lock, R12s in the front, R10s in the back. I could have honestly gotten away with like R8s all around, or an R10. What I would recommend is just get yourself a nice track pad that is still usable on the street, because I would assume your M3 is your daily driver, especially if you're only doing like, you know, 4 to 6 track days a year. Now that you've got upgraded brakes, you're ready for tires, because again, don't go get like super sticky 275 square setup on NT01s like me if you didn't go and upgrade your brakes, because your stock brakes are not going to be very happy trying to stop a sticky tire. Right now you've just introduced more speed and more heat into the system, and if you're on stock pads, like, you're toast. And along with that, try to get a pad that is gonna match with your rotor as well. I use stock rotors, and I'm starting to find that they are not really suitable for a track pad. They work, they will work, they will not crack. I have abused the hell out of these, but I sound like a subway car because the high temp grease that you slather all over the back of your pads, that burns off real quick, and then you start with these really hard aggressive track pads bedding into the rotor, and you get that little lip, and then you start always touching, you're just kissing that rotor with the pads all the time, and just driving down the street you'll hear it, and like, and it will drive you crazy. So if you want to upgrade a rotor, that's an expensive thing to do. You go with like a gyro disc or something. You know, that now might be a good time if you're looking at that. So now you've got sticky tires, suitable brakes, and you're realizing that you're out there like me and your oil temps are getting a little warm. So for me, what I tend to do is I'll be able to go out, let's say a 15 or 20 minute session. I'll be able to go out, get the car warmed up, do a few hot laps, and then I watch my oil temps and I'm like, all right, I gotta back off a little bit. I cannot just sustain hot lapping for 20 minutes. The car is not capable of that. And that's not like a huge limitation of the car, like it's a street car. It's not gonna be capable of that. It's not designed to do that. But if you are in a position where you're like, no, I need this to last, now maybe it's the time to start looking at upgraded oil cooling or transmission cooling. I have definitely gotten to the point where like my oil temps are my limiting factor. And I have never had like a transmission heat warning on the car. So for that, I am thankful. And I think that like the transmission cooling is relatively good, but those who are at like stage 3, right, what we're talking about in a minute, they're gonna be like, you need to do that. So oil coolers aren't cheap. You're talking like 800 bucks, 900 bucks, and you're gonna have to install it. So there you go. That's kind of what that like phase 2 looks like for me, because it's really just making sure that the car is sticky and balanced and can brake. And as long as you've got those things, you're ready to go out and do a whole bunch of track days. You're probably not gonna smoke anyone in a real track car, but you're gonna have fun out there and you're gonna tame a heavy car. And phase 3, where we'd all like to be, is you've gone full track build, you've ripped out the interior, you've caged it, you've got your harnesses, you've got your seats, you've got upgraded big Brembos, so you're ready to just like see heat all day long. You've got that oil cooler, transmission cooler, you've got your JRZ suspension that is tuned exactly to the track you're going to, and that's where I am not. I don't have the funds to do that. So then let's talk about money and protecting yourself on the track, because you know, these aren't disposable track cars. We're talking about like something that you've probably spent $30,000 on, and I sure as shit know that I can't lose $30,000 in a day because I up on a racetrack and went into a tire barrier, or somebody else up on a racetrack and sent me into a wall. Like, things happen. You know, anyone who goes to enough track days, you're gonna see accidents. You're gonna see things that, you know, luckily people walk away from unscathed, but cars get crashed. It's just the way it goes. Like, it's going to happen. So make sure you've got your safety equipment, obviously, like a nice helmet and all that good stuff, but make sure you've got track insurance. Track insurance is the best way to make sure that you're not walking away from this track day with your head in your hands, wishing you had spent $250 to save 30 grand with your totaled M3 on a flatbed going home. Why shouldn't you just rely on your regular insurance? Because I heard that you can do HPDEs, high performance driving education, and it's covered by my street insurance. Oh my God, I don't have to get track insurance. HPDEs are driving schools, and I can just insure, like keep my car insured through my normal insurance. And you're right, that is true with a lot of insurance companies, but I wanna just pose the scenario that now you've crashed your car, you've made a claim, your insurance, let's say, accepts the claim. They're like, yep, it was an HPDE, we told you we covered that, and that's great, and we're gonna cover your claim. And then we're gonna drop you because holy shit, you're driving your street car on a racetrack and that's all done. Or, hey, we're not gonna drop you, but now your premiums are going to be astronomical, and you will never afford your insurance ever again, because now you're paying $800 a month just to insure your car because you were a dum-dum and insured your car through your street insurance. Not a good position. The other thing is that like insurance companies communicate to each other, so you're like, oh well, that's fine, I'll make my claim and I'll just get out, I'll go somewhere else and get my insurance somewhere else. Nope, it's over for you. Like, your insurance will now cost a lot of money for the rest of your life, and that's the way it goes. So what I very much recommend is getting a dedicated insurance for the track. And it's just something, you go online, you go to Hagerty. Now, I go to Hagerty because I trust it. You can certainly find cheaper options out there, but for my car, when I go to Hagerty and insure it for one day for a timed event, a non-competitive timed event, because with COM SCC, I have a transponder on the car, and it's going to be timed, but it's not the time attack day that I'm doing it. I'm usually doing it on the driver education day. So it's a non-competitive timed event. I insure the car for about $31,000, and I do a 10% deductible. And for that, for one day, cost me $281, I believe. And that makes me feel real good, warm, and fuzzy inside, because I know that if I bin my car, I'm not left on my own. And for $281, I've just saved myself 27 grand if I bin the car and it's totaled, and I've also saved myself from having to sheepishly go to my insurance company and be like, hey, you know, I wrecked this car at a racetrack and now I'm looking for you to pay out. Like, I do not want to have that conversation. And in fact, even calling your regular insurance company and asking them like, hey, is my car insured on a racetrack? That's like not a recorded conversation you want to have with your insurance adjuster. Like, don't do that. So that's my advice. You don't need a full time attack weapon to enjoy a track day. If you're just trying to get out there and enjoy your car and find its limits and find your limits as a driver, which is really more important than all of this. I don't care what you're driving. There's a guy that goes out to all these events that I go to that is driving a Honda Accord Sport, and I'm like, dude, this guy, I love it because he thrashes this thing, and it's on like just summer tires, and it's a friggin' Honda Accord. He's out there getting his money's worth because he's learning to drive, or he's not learning to drive, but he's getting, you know, he's getting the seat time. That's what he's doing. And like, go out there, get seat time. You don't need to impress anybody. Just make sure that your equipment is ready to go and that you're insured, because I know a lot of you have like notes on the car. You've taken out loans on your car. And a lot of folks have car loans because they're like, well, you know, I'm only paying this much interest in my car loan, and I can sure as heck make a lot more in that if I invest that money. But how many of you are actually investing that money? How many of you have a $20,000 note on your M3 and actually took $20,000 cash and invested it somewhere that you're gonna get an 8% return? Like, if that's what you're doing, great, do that, make that money and be strategic. But if you're like most people, you have a car loan because you could not afford to just pay $30,000 up front for a car. So if you can't afford to pay $30,000 up front for your car, if you can't afford to lose $30,000 in a day because of like literally something stupid that happened in an instant that you did or someone else did to put your car into a wall, get track insurance. Get track insurance. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Enjoy your M3s, enjoy your track days. Go out there and get some seat time. Be humble, don't be a hotshot. Enjoy your instructors, be nice to them, and they will be nice to you. And don't forget to respect the drive. I'll see you in the next one.